Welcome back to Globesweeper Hex Puzzler. Today I'm gonna attempt to take a look at these two cluster and line levels, Flower and Jigsaw. We'll see if I have time for both. Let's start with Flower. So, because this is a line level, or it has line clues, press the X button on your keyboard to mark all of them, and then we'll just unmark each line as we go to make it clearer which lines are completed and which ones are not. So, to start here, we have this 6 line with only 6 tiles, so we have to mark all of them, completing this line, and completing this cluster. So that's already done. We unmark it from everything around it. And then this 3 needs that tile, and this tile, and this tile, and that tile. Now you can go in many different ways, but let's start by looking at this 4 here. We have 2 tiles, and we need 2 more tiles, so these both have to be marked, completing this row here. And this line has 2, already has 2 marked, so these 2 tiles are removed. And that gives us a 5 here, so we need to mark all of them right there. And now that completes this 2 line, so these 3 tiles are removed, and the line is done. We get a 4 tile here, and this 3 cluster with 2, which has to go on here. And now it's done, so we have to disconnect it from everything. And then we get the 4 here, which now completes this 4 line here. And that's as far as we can take that part. Now up here, we have a 5 line here with only 3 more tiles and 2 reactive tiles, so we have to mark all of these 3. That gives us an 8 cluster, which has 4 and 8, so all of them are done, or it's done, and we remove all of the connecting tiles. Then we get this for the 3, and this 2 is already done. Now, we can look at this 3 line here, which has 2 reactive tiles. We need 1 more out of these 2 tiles, which will complete this 1 tile here, so this tile cannot be marked. And we get a 1 here, so we can disconnect that, and mark these 4 tiles here, completing this line and this line. Now here, this 7 cluster has 4 tiles. We have to go up here for 5, but then we don't know any more than that. Now, do we already have to look at this part? Because yeah, that's the tricky part. I can't remember if there's anything more we can do right now. No, I think that's it. Yeah, okay. So, if we rotate it the way I had it before, we were right here at the start, and down to the right, we have this area here with a 5 cluster, which already has 3 tiles in it total. If we look at that together with this 5 line, this 5 line has 6 tiles, and we need to mark 5 of them. So, in other words, we need to remove 1 tile. If you think about where you can and can't remove tiles, or 1 tile, we can very easily see that if we were to remove this tile, for example, then we would have to mark all of these 4 tiles for the 5 line, but then we would have 7 tiles for the 5 cluster. So this tile cannot be removed, we have to mark it. And similarly, on the other end, these 2 tiles you can't remove either. If we were to remove this tile, then we would mark 3 tiles here, connecting it up once again to a 7 cluster. And if this tile is removed, then we mark this tile and these 2, which then gives us 6 for this 5 cluster. So these 2 tiles both cannot be removed, we have to mark them, and the gap in this 5 line has to be either here or here. Now, we've completed this line of 3 from before, so these tiles are removed. This 3 is done. And this 2 needs this tile marked, which completes this 2, and this 2. And now we've gotten the tile in the 5 line, so this tile is done, and the line is done. And the 4 tile here, let's just mark this one. So now the 5 cluster here is done, we have to disconnect this part. And the 3 here is done. And the 3 here, let's just mark these tiles. Now this 3 line already has 3, so that tile is removed, and this line is done. Now it's a similar thing again, where this line has 5, we need 5 lines, 5 tiles, and there's 6 tiles total. Once again, we can think about what happens if we remove these edge tiles. If we remove this tile, for example, then we have to mark all of these 5 tiles, which would then have 5 and 6 tiles for this 4 cluster. So that doesn't work. We cannot remove this tile. What if we remove this tile then? If this one is gone, we have to mark 2 here, once again giving 5 tiles to this 4 cluster. So that doesn't work, we have to mark this one. And once again, it's one of these 2 which will be the hole in the 5 line. But doing this gave us this 2 cluster, which is now already complete. So all of these tiles around it have to be disconnected, and we get this tile marked for the 2 and the 5 line. That now completes this 4 cluster, so this tile is removed, and this 2 tile is done, so that's removed, and then we get one of these tiles, but we don't know yet. But on this side, we have a line of 3 with 2 tiles. We need to mark one of these 2 tiles, because there are no other tiles in this line, which will complete this one, so this tile cannot be marked. That gets us a 2 here, which needs this tile, completing the 1 and this 3 line, and this 3 line, so this tile is now removed. And this 1 is done, and the 1 is done. So now, this 2 is already done, and this 2 as well. We get a 3 here, which now completes this line of 2, so that tile is removed. This 1 tile is now done. We get the 3 here, and this 2 is done. We get the 3 here, which now completes this line of 3, so that tile is removed, giving us a 1 here again that's already done, and this 3 and this 3. Now this 3 line is done, so these tiles are removed. This 2 needs 2 more tiles, so we have to mark these 2, completing this 3, which now has completed this line, and yeah, we can't say anything here quite yet, but right here we do have 1, and then we need 2 more tiles, so these have to be marked, completing this 2, and this 2 needs that, and this 5 cluster needs this tile. This line is also done, and now we go back to this line here from before, the 5 line, which has 3 tiles marked, and only 2 more available tiles, so both of them have to be marked. That completes this 2 now, and the 5 line here. This 2 line is now complete. It has 2 tiles already, so this tile cannot be marked, giving us a 3, so that has to be marked, completing this 4 cluster, so this has to be disconnected. And now we look at this 3 line here, which has 2 tiles already. We can at most use one of these 2 tiles, but this 3 has only 1 tile, so we need 1, 2, and then we have to mark this tile. Now we can look at the 7 cluster here, which has 4, 5, and 6 tiles. We need 1 more tile, and it will be either here or here. Either way, this tile touches both of these tiles, so this tile cannot be marked. If we were to mark this tile, then this 7 has no way to complete itself without becoming an 8 cluster. So this tile we can remove. And once again, we know we need 1 of these 2 tiles, so this 3 can at most have 1 here, and then we'll need 2 and 3. That now completes this 3 line, so this tile has to be removed, giving us this final tile. So this line is done, and this line is done. This line of 4 has 2 tiles and only 2 more, so both of them have to be marked. That now completed this 4 line, so this tile can be removed, and the 2 is done here, and this 3. And now it's just this final little area, and this one is again pretty tricky. So the way you have to think about this is just all of the lines intersect on this tile. What happens if we were to mark that tile gold? If we look at this line, we have 2 tiles, we need 1 of these 2. So if we mark this tile gold, this tile will have to be removed, right? On this line, we have 1 tile, so we need 1 of these 3 tiles. If we mark the center tile, then these 2 tiles will be removed. And this 3 line also has 2 and needs 1 more out of these 3, so if we mark this center tile, then these 2 tiles are removed. So what happens when we do that? If we mark this one, that means these 2 and these 2 and this tile are all removed. So these 4 tiles here surrounding the center all have to be removed, and what are we left with for the 5 cluster? We have 1, 2, and 3, and no possible way to complete it. So this center tile that overlaps all of these lines cannot be marked, or there won't be enough tiles left for the 5 cluster. So that one you can remove. Now that gives us a 5 tile here in the center, and this 2 line we know we only need 1 more tile in, so we can at most have 1 of these 2, and then this 5 will have 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and 5. That now completes this line and this one, but this line is complete, so this tile has to be removed. And then this 5 cluster now cannot go here, or it would connect up to these 4 tiles, becoming a 9 cluster, so that one has to be removed, and the final tile has to be marked. That was actually quicker than I expected, so let's get into Jigsaw. Alright, this once again is a line level, So press the X button on your keyboard to mark all of the lines, and then we'll just unmark them one by one as we complete them to keep track of them. So in this level, I would recommend mostly looking at the lines whenever you need to progress in any way. There are a lot of lines, like these 4 lines that you can just mark everything in. But let's also pay attention to the cluster tiles, because when there are 2 cluster tiles that share neighboring tiles, we have to delete these unless the cluster tiles are the same number, because if either of these 2 are marked, then we get a cluster that cannot be completed. So these have to be removed, which now gives us 3 tiles in this line and 3 tiles in this line. Now, we can actually already do stuff here, but let's wait with that. We'll have to do more tricky things later. So let's just move onward to the right here. We have this 4 line here, so all of these 4 have to be marked, so that's fine. This 12 cluster cannot touch this 8 cluster, so these tiles have to be removed, which now only gives us 2 more tiles for this 2 line here. Once again, this 12 and 8 cannot touch, so we have to delete this tile, which gives us 3 tiles in this 3 line. And then we just move onward again, so nothing here, nothing here, nothing here. This 9 and 4 cannot touch, so this line in between has to be removed, which now gives us only 3 tiles in this 3 line right there. And once again, the 4, 9 can't touch, so this tile and this tile have to be removed, which now gives us 3 tiles in this line, and 1 more tile here. We can do stuff here, but let's just move on, just for simplicity, and look at the 4 line here. So that has to have all of them marked, obviously, and then we just move onward, move onward, move onward. Here's another 4 line, mark all of these. This 4 and 12 can't touch, so this tile has to be removed, and this tile has to be removed, which now gets us only 2 tiles left in this 2. Once again, this tile has to be removed because the 4 and 12 can't touch. And then here we have another 4 line, so all of these have to be marked. And then now, this 12 cluster has 4, 8, 10, and we need 2 more tiles in this line. But all of those tiles touch the 12 cluster. So the 12 cluster will be completed with 2 of these 4 tiles, which means that this tile cannot be marked for the 12. So that one we can remove and then mark it here for the 4. Now, I think we have to start thinking about the 3s. We can continue a little bit more in blissful ignorance. So here we have 4 tiles in this line, so all of those are marked. And now I think we need to start thinking about this. So this 7 and 13 that we started out with, here we have a line of 3. Once again, we need 3 tiles in this line, or in other words, we need to delete 1 tile. Where can we not delete a tile? If we were to delete this top tile, what happens then? We have to mark these 3 tiles, which would connect up the 7 and 13. So that doesn't work. This tile cannot be deleted, we have to mark it. And on the other side, the bottom tile, if we delete this one, then we once again have to connect up these 3 tiles connecting the 7 and 13 area. So this tile also cannot be deleted, so we have to mark the edge tiles in this situation. Then here now we have a 7 cluster of 4, or a 7 tile that has 4 tiles in it. So we need 3 more tiles, but if we use either of these 2 tiles, then it would connect up 4, 5, and then 9. So that's not possible. We cannot use either of these 2 tiles for the 7, so these 2 tiles have to be removed, which gives us only 2 tiles left on this 2. And now we have to disconnect the 7 and 3, so this tile cannot be marked, and that gives us the final tile in this 3 line right there. Now we can look at the 13 here. We have 3, we have 6, we have 9, we have 10, we have 11, so we need 2 more tiles in the 13. And once again, we need 2 tiles here, same for the 12 from before, 2 tiles here. They all touch the 13, so the 13 will be completed using 2 of these 4 tiles, which means we cannot use either of these tiles for the 13. So those have to be deleted, and then we only get 2 tiles left here for the 2. And then here, we have 6 tiles in the 7 cluster. We can only use 1 of these 2 tiles at most, and for this 3, that means we have 1 here, and then we have to mark 2 and 3. Because of that, we can now delete this tile, or we would connect up the 7 cluster to too many tiles. So that one has to be deleted, and this one has to be marked, completing the 7, so these 2 tiles are done. That now gives us 2 tiles here for the 2, and this 12 now has 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and needs one more tile here. Same thing here. We need one tile here, so we have to mark these two for the 3 line. And now we have a 12 and 8, and they cannot touch, so we can disconnect this tile in between them. And that gets us this final tile for the 3, and the final tile for the 12, so this tile is removed, giving us 3 tiles now left in this line. And then we can disconnect these 2 tiles because the 8 and 9 can't connect, so those are gone, which now gives us only 2 tiles left on these 2 lines. Here, the 8 and the 4 cannot touch, so this tile can be disconnected, giving us the final tile here for the 2. Now once again, we have 3 tiles in this 4 cluster, we need one more tile here, but we can only use one tile here in this 3 line, and then we will need these 2 tiles marked. Once again now, that threatens to connect up the 4 and 9, so we have to disconnect this tile in between, giving us this final tile in the 3 line, and completing this 4 cluster so these tiles cannot be marked. And this 9 and 13 can't connect up, so this tile also has to be deleted, giving us only 1 tile remaining for the 1, and this 9 is now complete with 9 tiles, so these are disconnected. That gives us 1 tile here for the 2, and now we have to look at this 4 here. So once again, this line of 3, we delete 1 tile. Where can we not delete a tile? If we delete the bottom tile here, what would happen? We have to mark these 3 tiles, giving us 3, 4, and 5 for this 4. So this tile cannot be removed, we have to mark it, and same for this top tile. If we delete this tile, then we have to mark these 2, giving us once again a 5 cluster. So that has to be marked as well, and the gap here has to be one of these tiles. But this line of 3 has to have at least one of these 2 tiles. That is, it's not possible to not use either of these 2. So this 4 will be completed with 1 tile here, and we need to mark these 2 tiles for the 3, and then disconnect this 4 from the other tiles in this cluster. That now gives us 3 tiles here for this line, and 3 here for this line, completing the 4, and we can disconnect this tile. And finally, we only have 3 more tiles to go. Now, finally, this part is kinda tricky, and I might just show this in Paint. So, here we have a 12 cluster with 10 tiles, we need 2 more tiles in this line. And here we have a 13 cluster with 11 tiles, and we need 2 more tiles in this line. So you have to think about which tiles cannot be marked for one or the other one can't be completed. So I'm just gonna visualize this in Paint, just so it's easier to see, so give me a second. Alright, so here we are in Paint. Let's just test some tiles, and specifically these center tiles. For example, this tile. What happens if we mark this tile for the 12? Now we marked an 11th tile for this 12. We cannot mark either of these 2 now because we can't connect up the 13 and the 12, so these 2 tiles have to be removed. Because of that, we now only have 2 tiles left in this line, so both of these would have to be marked, but then this 13 is now done, and we have to disconnect it from all other tiles, meaning we have to disconnect these 3 tiles, leaving only 11 tiles for this 12. Similarly, on the other side, this tile has a similar story. So here, we mark this tile, we cannot mark either of these 2 tiles connecting up the 12 and 13, which now gives us 2 tiles remaining in this line, completing this 12, so this tile cannot be marked, and these tiles cannot be marked, leaving only 12 for this 13. So either of these 2 center tiles here cannot be marked, we have to remove both of them. So these will be removed, but that's not enough to solve this one. Past that point, I don't even have to do this in the game, because yeah, we will remove these 2 and they will just fall away, so let's continue just looking at this. Past this point, this 13 still has only 11, we need 2 more in this line. What would happen if we don't use both of these 2 tiles? If we were to use this tile down here, we would use 1 here, and then 1 of these 2. So this tile is now marked, and then these 2 have to be disconnected for this 12 to not touch the 13, and now we're only left with 1 tile in this 2 line. So that doesn't work. This tile cannot be marked at all, we have to remove it, and then mark these tiles for the 13. So it's pretty damn complicated, and I haven't really found a more elegant solution than that, but we know we have to delete these 2 tiles, and we now know we cannot mark this tile, or this line will only have one tile in it. So this has to be disconnected, these two have to be marked for this line, disconnected from the 12, and then these two tiles have to be marked. Feel free to share any other strategies or ways to think about that if you have any better way to look at it. But that's it. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you next time with who knows what level. I have not practiced past this point. We'll see. Probably some knot stuff. Bye-bye.